there are some reflection I kind of have recently, and as I'm a senior and I study abroad, um, and I'm really anxious in the current phase. There are just something that I learned very recently is to not rely on external factors. I always have the mindset of like, okay, I will be so much happier if I declare this major. If I will, my life will be so much more organized if I declare a second major, and I'll be so happy if I get a job in this lab, and I will also be so happy if I um, declare this minor, take these classes, like took as much classes as possible I can, or go into the lab I've always want to and work with the professor I always want to. But then I realized that all these things, once you get it, they are really not as expected. And I suddenly just discover I feel like all my majors are terrible because they cannot lead to a very good job. And there is barely any job openings for people who study something like me, studying in this major like neuroscience and psychology. And also, it is very hard. And also, I've been struggling with the some with the people and the project I'm currently doing with my thesis, and also struggling with the lab I'm gonna work in the future because of some like a bad communication, um, and the hiring process is extremely frustrating for me right now. And I reflect on my experience in the lab. Once I know that I may not get this job, and then I started thinking about, okay, this lab is actually not as good as is because it is very intense. Like people are not very close with each other in the lab. They're kind of like a sort of like a gatekeeping, and the PI was not like very communicative with others. Um, he never responds the emails and always just give you a project with no clear instructions, ask you to spend hours and hours on, but then he might want something completely else, completely different after a month of you are doing that experiment, or just fire people suddenly without telling them the clear reasons. So, and like the lab is now doing the research I think that are meaningful, or I want to do that. I want to commit like long years to do that. So it's really just like I just like gradually realize that all the things I want, after I get them, I will not be happier. So so it's kind of like you have to have the power or motivation in your inside of you, like internally, to make you um, romanticize your life, find happiness. Do not rely on like external things like the ranking of the university, whether it's prestigious enough, like whether you went to a very well-known companies, or even getting PR or something like that. So just imagine yourself be a giant jars of black paint, and whatever, if you cannot change yourself into the rainbow colors, whatever goes into you will become black no matter how colorful it used to be. So try to make yourself like the rainbow jar instead of like the black jar.